What's up, Niner gang? How are we feeling? Let's go live, talk some 49ers football. What is going on, Niner faithful? How are we feeling tonight? How are we doing? Another day closer to the NFL draft, another day closer to the season, but we still have the same questions every single day. But here we are. I wanted to go live and get your thoughts on a few things. Obviously we've been talking about quarterback situation, so I'm going to open it up to you guys, ask you, what do you guys think about the whole Trey Lance situation with training? Again, there was another video that came out today. Trey Lance was at TCU training with Patrick Mahomes. We saw that video, and there was a part where he kind of dropped back and he throws the ball and he's getting a lot of scrutiny and things like that. But at the end of the day, I just like the fact that Trey's out there and he's working. And as we know, he's working with Patrick Mahomes. This is all stuff we've kind of known. But it begs the question is, he's putting in a lot of work. How much improvement is he going to make? He's got to come out and put every, inch of dedication, and he's got to go out there and grind. He's got to go out there and just kick some butt this offseason, right? He's got a lot to prove. But then if he goes out there and he plays to the level he's capable, we have to understand this is a competition. We know Brock Purdy's their guy right now, according to what they've said. But then you have to ask the question of, is Trey Lance, is he able to take this quarterback one job and take it away from Brock Purdy? Like, can he come in and take this job and make it his job? Like, I know there's a lot of people that are just sitting there saying, oh, well, Brock Purdy's going to be back, and then it's going to be Trey Lance's job. But we have to actually have this conversation. We have to talk and sit here and say, is Trey Lance actually going to go out there and steal this job from Brock Purdy? We got to talk about it because I think he just might be able to. I know there's a lot of people out there that saying they're going to trade Trey Lance, whatever the case is. There was some information tonight that I talked about 49ers and their draft position. I posted an update. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the 49ers had a private workout with them, but I'm sure they've looked at other quarterbacks. But then it kind of makes you think, okay, if they, are drafting a quarterback, does that mean they're going to trade someone? And Julius asked the big question, probability Lance gets traded. So there's a lot of questions we have to kind of ask ourselves is, how realistic is a trade, right? How realistic is a trade of Trey Lance? And should they trade Trey Lance, right? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Brock Purdy. And if there's even an update, there's really, the last time he spoke to the media about a week or two ago, he did say that he's still on pace to be throwing in the 3-month, range from when he had the surgery, and everything's healing well. But before we get to any of that, I kind of want to take a minute to, send my prayers and thoughts to Mooney Ward, his family, and his daughter. As you guys know, you've seen it on social media today. Mooney Ward posted on his IG story that his daughter was undergoing open heart surgery today. And then he updated us and said everything went well. She's on the road to recovery. So that's scary. She's a very, she's an infant. She's a baby pretty much. And having your child go through open heart surgery is very scary. I'm a father, and I could only imagine if my daughter had to go through that, so it's scary. I'm glad that he gave us an update and everything's going well. And she's on the road to recovery. I myself was born with a heart condition, so it's scary stuff. My mom opted not to get open heart surgery, so very scary stuff. I've seen many patients that have had open heart surgery. Obviously, they're older, but when you have a small child and, open heart surgery, it's scary, a lot of risks, but hopefully everything goes well and she recovers good and there's no setbacks and she can live a long, fruitful life. So prayers up to Mooney Ward and his family and his daughter. Very good to hear that, she's doing well. But wonderful news, says Debbie. I agree with that. But now let's switch gears back to what we all want to talk about, right? Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. Now they've also looked into quarterbacks. So we got to talk about that today. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, UCLA quarterback. he was a quarterback that, he's getting a lot of attention here and there. He's a very dynamic, athletic quarterback. They had a private workout with him. I'm sure there's other quarterbacks, again, that they've looked into. And it, makes you think, will they get a quarterback that they can develop, maybe put on the practice squad, come in for training camp? Maybe. I'm sure with 11 draft picks, they'll definitely take a look at a quarterback here and there. So Debbie says, why can't we keep both Trey and Brock? And that's a good question. I think you can. I think you absolutely should. And I think you absolutely need to, because what has happened to the 49ers and quarterbacks over the last couple of years has not been good. It's been injury after injury after injury. So I think it would be smart. I don't think they should trade Trey Lance. I think they should keep on to him and, again, give him a fair chance. Give him the absolute fair chance that he deserves and see what he has. I think he's motivated. The fact that he's training with Patrick Mahomes tells me everything I need to know. He's got that hunger. He's out there, pushing the boundaries of, his rehab. If you guys saw the videos, it's all over social media. You've seen the videos, not just the throwing, but his actual workout videos. The guy is going out there and having some big time workouts. You got to remember, he is coming off a fractured ankle, man. A fractured ankle. It's not easy, but the fact that he's kind of pushing along and doing these big, dynamic activities where he's cutting, he's running, he's speed walking, he's pulling weights as he's rotating his trunk. Those are huge movements and a lot of strain on the foot. When you start weight bearing, it's not easy. And, he's got to combine all the balance activities and, just dynamic standing and, just so many different things, a lot of multi-angle playing activities. And then he's throwing and he's working, man. He's definitely working. So I want to see him get a fair chance and give him the offense, because if he has that ceiling, he should be able to go out there and win this job. I absolutely think that Trey Lance can go out there and win this job. So I have a guest coming in, and we all know my boy, other than Smitty. What's up, man?
What's up?
Not much, man. The guy I wanted to talk about. This is Trey Lance's agent. My question tonight is, can Trey Lance take the quarterback job and steal it from Brock Purdy? We all know Brock Purdy's coming off of a big injury, and so is Trey Lance. But as you've seen over the last couple of weeks, right, Trey Lance, he's posting all his videos. He's training with Patrick Mahomes, and he's hungry. If he's given the fair chance, from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and they say, here you go, kid. Here's the same playbook, Brock Purdy. Can he take this starting job and make Brock Purdy an afterthought? What do you think, Smitty?
I want to say yes, but part of me questions whether he's going to be fully enabled. Part of me worries about what kind of playbook is he going to get. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful. I think the talent is there. The talent is there. The support, I don't know. And every time I bank on something in regards to Shanahan, I'm wrong with Shanahan. I'm told I cannot predict the man. But talent-wise, I would say, yeah. I mean, he's got the ability, man. We know he does. I really think he's got the upside. And we've never seen him, like I always say, we've never seen him play with Christian McCaffrey. So any preconceived notions of what he's going to look like need to be thrown out the window, because no one got to judge Brock Purdy without Christian McCaffrey. I promise you that Brock Purdy would not be held as high in the high regards that he is if he was playing without Christian McCaffrey. I can promise you that. It doesn't mean that you can separate Brock Purdy from that offense, because it is what it is. But I think Trey deserves a shot to prove that McCaffrey's a big impact for either one of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that's one thing I said on one of the last shows I did, and it's not to take anything away from Brock Purdy. I think me and you talked about this on Instagram actually the other day. It's not to take anything away from Brock Purdy, because I absolutely just think he was, it was a magical run. If you were a 49er fan, you were blown away. It was tremendous. I was at the Miami game when Brock Purdy had to come in, and Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, and I was actually like, holy crap, man, what the hell? We can't have good things. All the quarterbacks were going to hurt, and we didn't know what to expect out of this Brock Purdy guy. And then I remember you a couple weeks before, you were saying, they're going to start Brock. They should just do it now, and it's going to happen. And People wrote you off. We talked about that. But then we had Christian McCaffrey, and nobody realized like just the impact he had. Because what did we say about Jimmy when CMC was there? We're like, oh, he actually looks like a really elite like not elite, but a really good quarterback when he had CMC there. He made him look better. And that's what we kept saying during the week CMC was there was CMC makes your quarterback look good. And if he made Brock Purdy look great, what could he do with Trey Lance? Because he has that ceiling, the number 3 pick in the draft. So I agree with you, Smitty. If Trey Lance gets a shake to play with CMC, I could see him. This offense could be better if he lives up to his potential, but he has a lot to work on. He has a lot to figure out, in terms of getting back into the action, and he hasn't played a lot, reading a defense and leading a team. But I think his talent alone with CMC could take this offense to great heights.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could definitely be a situation that gets derailed, but at the same time, like there's not much Sam Darnold's the problem. Like if Sam Darnold, and he's not a problem, that's the part that's so frustrating for me.
I know what you mean.
Is that if Sam Darnold is given an opportunity to get half the work, and like not only is like I know a lot of people are going to say, don't worry, Trey will beat him out, but you're also setting him up partially for failure if he's getting half the reps. You're giving him half the opportunity. You're taking away half of the opportunity to get better, half of the opportunity to learn. It's just at what point, like if this does actually play out to where it's a split and it's like a long competition, you're not putting Trey in a position to succeed because he's getting half of that time. So like at that point, I'm not going to be able to take it, man. I'm going to be.
You're going to be throwing shit at the phone. Yeah. I get it. So my take on that, and yeah, I feel a little, when I first heard about that, I was like, yeah, Trey should get all the first team reps. But then the other part of me is I see why they said that they're going to split it because of what happened last year with the injuries of Josh Johnson. And if worst case scenario, Sam Darnold has to come in, which obviously we hope that's not the case. We want Trey to be a guy that can come in and start and win games and whatever. We want Brock Purdy to be healthy, come in and do his thing. But if he absolutely has to come in, Sam Darnold, you'd want him to be well-versed in this offense because he's never played in the offense. So I see that point of it, but I also agree with what you're saying is, hey, man, we're sitting here saying he doesn't have the reps, so you're going to take reps away from him. Right. So it's a slippery slope. Yeah, I see that.
And think about what you just said, too, that you understand that in case Darnold has to come in, if Brock Purdy were there, no one would be saying we need to give Darnold half the reps in case he needs to come in. Brock Purdy would get all the reps. So like you're already setting up Trey for failure. Not saying Trey can't overcome it. I want everyone to understand. I believe in Trey enough that like he could still somehow circumvent all this BS and figure out a way to just blow up on the field. Because like, let's be honest, did Brock Purdy have obstacles? Yeah, he was the last pick in the NFL draft. Yeah. And he was able to circumvent all that negativity, climb up. You know how hard it was to start a guy like that, and not like go to a free agent, player or something like, it was, they put him in there. That was him proving himself when, he got his moment. So Trey needs to step up for sure. And like we said all last offseason, and I think we'll continue to say, if Trey can't beat out Sam Darnold, then he doesn't deserve to start. But at the same time, if Trey does beat him out and he's only gotten half the reps and you've also damaged his confidence a little bit, you're not getting the most out of Trey. And you may have him fall short when he wouldn't have if you just said, he's our guy. I don't care what Darnold is here for. If Purdy was here and Darnold was here, we'd be treating it differently. And so it's like you either go all in, you either crap or get off the pot. And like you either trade Trey, you either believe in Trey or you don't. And it's like, for me, this all comes full circle back to, like even what Stephen A. Smith said. And I'm not a huge Stephen A. Smith, like, I mean, I don't hate him, but like he could say some stupid stuff, but he's right. Like if I'm in control of the situation and I go get Lamar Jackson, you win a Super Bowl. You win a Super Bowl. So if I felt like Shanny had trust in Trey, I would be like, you know what? Go with the cheap QBs. Go with Purdy. Go with Trey. You've got a cheap QB room for years right now. That's awesome. But the fact that I don't think that Shanahan believes in Trey, it is enabling Trey the quickest path to a Super Bowl in a closing window that feels like 1 to 3 years for you guys, where I'm not saying you can't be competitive. I'm not saying you can't make it to an NFC championship game 4 years from now, but like your window to flat out dominate every other team in the National Football League, it's sitting right in front of you. And it's not a 3-year guaranteed window. It's a 1 to 3, because you got a lot of things that could happen each offseason. You have a 1 to 3 year window where if you got Lamar, you would annihilate everybody. You would annihilate everybody. You wouldn't just win. You would lambaste everybody around you, because you have the most talented roster in the National Football League from top to bottom with no signal caller every year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the one thing we sit here and talk about every year at the end of the season. What's the issue is quarterback, and then off season comes and we're still here sitting talking about quarterback. So yeah, absolutely. If they get a guy that was an MVP on this team, I mean, common sense tells you that, yeah, they'd win the Super Bowl. I agree. I mean, I don't always see eye to eye with Stephen A. Smith, but when he said that, I mean, it was like, yeah, duh, man. You go get a guy like that, 100%, you're going to win the Super Bowl. And, it kind of, this is a good comment here. Kurt says, Trey will have to be amazing to be quarterback one, right? We'll see. So I think what it's like you said, is they don't give the stamp of approval to Trey Lance. We've sat here and said that many times, that it just doesn't feel like they've given him that backing. Like, man, you're our guy. Like, they don't give him that support. Like they basically said, Brock Purdy's our guy. If he's healthy, it wouldn't even be a question. And they're telling us like he's the guy. So it does almost seem like Trey Lance has to be like perfect. He has to go out there and be like, oh my God, this guy is just amazing. Like, he does have to go out there and knock the socks out of everybody. So I feel like he definitely has a lot to overcome. Like you said, Brock Purdy, he had things to overcome. He was the last pick of the draft. Trey Lance, I mean, and everybody's sitting here saying, yeah, Brock Purdy's had an injury and this, that. Trey Lance had an injury too. He fractured his friggin' ankle. But now you see the workouts. He's working his ass off, man. And he is trying. You can see it. In his mind, I feel like he's really, really putting in the effort. I mean, he's got Patrick Mahomes out there taking him under his wing. That tells me everything. He knows he has to go out there and play fearless. He has to play like flawless. That's the word, actually. Flawless.
The good news is that Brock Purdy elevated from the lowest bar you could possibly have had. Yeah. And it was easy to step over. So in a way, the good news is Trey's bar is being set really, really low. Yeah. So he's going to be able to vault over it. But it still comes down to, at the end of the day, will he have the same playbook opportunity? Will he have the same play call opportunity? Because if you don't give him that, you're essentially shortchanging him. And I'm not saying he can't succeed on that, but he's coming off an ankle injury. And if you think he's a dual threat quarterback and you don't think he's a pocket passer, then that tells me you're going to put him probably in a vulnerable spot to re-injure his ankle. And you're not going to give him a chance to showcase the same opportunities with his arm that you're going to give Purdy. So how is he going to look better than Purdy if he can't run as much because he's recovering from the injury? And you're not going to give him the exact same playbook, which you may or may not. I don't really know for sure yet, but based on the comments, I'm wondering if you don't give him the same playbook, you're giving him no wiggle room to outperform Purdy. So we'll just have to see what happens. But all I can say is this: if the Niners go out there and win games with Trey Lance under center, very, very doable if he's healthy. There's just going to be a certain comfortable level of winning. Like if you're winning comfortably, if things look good, the offense is flowing to where you're not going to make a change. Like Trey would have to be losing games or the team skating by with defensive touchdowns and Trey's not doing his job and you're worried about, okay, what about the next win? We got to get the next. Then I could see Trey being removed even if you're winning, but by Purdy or Darnold. But if Trey's looking good and you're winning, just like Brock Purdy, you can't take the job from a guy that's rallying the troops and good Lord, man, you give that ball to CMC and he's the glue.
He's so good. Yeah, he changed that. It's just amazing with CMC.
Yeah.
He came in and it was like whatever our issue was, it's like our offense just transformed. They were scoring 34, 35 points. It was crazy. They were it was amazing. The transformation this offense did with him, it was like they couldn't do anything wrong. And you're right. Give Trey the same playbook. And I agree with you. I think you have to give him the same opportunity. It's an equal opportunity for every quarterback. And it has to. You can't give him a different playing field than Brock and expect him to go out there and beat Brock if he's not even in the same, he doesn't even have the same playbook. So 100%, you have to. Real quick, Smitty, Kurt wants to know. He says he says that he doesn't agree with you that the bar is set low for Trey. Maybe if you can reiterate that. He says if anything, Brock set the bar high, so it'd be hard to pass that. And then
I see what he's saying. I see what he's saying. I think we're saying it different ways. Like I get what he's saying, that to replace Purdy at this point is hard because that bar has been set high. I get that. But what I'm saying is, like, when he goes out there and he's splitting time with Darnold, he goes out there and the expectation's low. Like the bar feels like it's extremely low for him to walk into week 1 as a starter. But once Purdy's back and if Trey's struggling, then I agree that point is where we have a problem, where Trey's going to get, yanked from the lineup. But I just mean, if you're saying, this is what I mean, Kurt, if you're putting Trey out there and it's like, Trey's the guy, and Trey's got the pressure on him, he's nervous, he's coming back from the injury, he feels like I can't misstep at all. But right now, he's not even a starter. So like, I'm just saying the bar is really low. He should be able to just leap over Sam Darnold. And if he doesn't, then, what we said earlier, he's not the guy. He should easily be able to. But then again, Shanahan's involved, and I don't know.
You don't even know. But you're absolutely right, Smitty. If and that's one of the first things I think many people said, and when they heard all this news over the last couple of weeks, when Kyle and John and everything, and it's the same theory. Everybody has the same kind of advice or same take is, if Sam Darnold beats out Trey Lance, or if Trey Lance can't beat out Sam Darnold, then yeah, he definitely doesn't even deserve to be on the team.
But he needs to be given a fair shot to beat out Sam Darnold, because like I could see him not even getting the right opportunity, and then that doesn't hold water with me. But if he like goes out there and Sam's looking better than him, which he's not better than him, he's not. But if he goes out there and looks better than Trey, and he wins the job, like outright, like obvious, like Trey he's missing cues, he's missing this, he's missing that, he's overthrowing guys, like then he doesn't deserve to be the guy. But Shanahan's got to give him a fair shot. He already isn't, though. But maybe this is just coach speak. Maybe Sam Darnold's going to not even be, maybe they're going to flip back in the direction of saying, Trey's going to, he's our starter. Like, and we hear that very quickly. And then we're like, okay, good. What was this all the Sam Darnold garbage then? I don't know. But, Purdy's our guy. And then Trey could earn the job and keep it. Like, there's been different things said already.
Yeah. You can't read. It's so hard. He's unpredictable, but I think he tells it straight. And then people overanalyze what he says. But I honestly think that what he says, because it kind of echoed what Lynch said, is Brock Purdy's our guy right now, but he's not healthy. And because he's not healthy, they're in a situation that they're in. So, again, Trey Lance has a golden opportunity. I think he can take the job, but he does have to come out and just look absolutely flawless. And I think if Brock's not ready to start the season, and one thing you kind of said, I want to kind of dovetail off that is, okay, let's say Brock doesn't start the season and Trey Lance is given the opportunity to go start some games. Let's say it's a 4-game sample, right? He's got the 4-game appetizer to start the season. If he looks great, don't pry the job off of his hands. Like, why do that? You're going to shake everybody's confidence, and the team's going to be like, yo, we're winning. Why are you doing this to us? They don't want a quarterback controversy, right? What did Kittle say the other day is he's said this so many times, like, I've had a different quarterback every year. I don't want it. I want some stability. I think they all will support Trey once he starts winning. But if you're right, if they're skating by games, if their offense looks sputtery and it's like, oh my God, this is scary, yeah, definitely go bring in the other guy that can maybe elevate your offense.
I just can't wait to see him with CMC so everybody can shut up about how much better Brock has been than Trey, because it's like comparing apples to oranges. It doesn't. There's no way anybody can say what Trey Lance looks like with Christian McCaffrey, and there's no way anybody can say what Purdy looks like without Christian McCaffrey. So we need to see apples to apples side by side before we start even remotely drawing conclusions about how good Purdy is. And this coming from somebody like you mentioned earlier that said you need to bench Jimmy G now when he was playing fairly well and put Brock Purdy in. You will win more games with Brock Purdy. You didn't lose a game with Brock Purdy. So clearly that was the case. But coming from someone that felt that way about that situation, I'm telling you that I don't think Brock Purdy's 100%, what everybody thinks he is yet. He is great in this offense, and Trey could be great in this offense too. This offense has only known really one quarterback with Christian McCaffrey on the roster. Well, I mean, Jimmy,
but with Christian
yeah,
McCaffrey, he looked good,
right. It elevated his game,
yeah.
But I'm just meaning that like it Purdy, Trey, Jimmy, we might see that all of them look effective in this offense, but the most talented one still could be Trey, who's not going to just look effective like Purdy. Purdy was not just effective, he was great, but maybe Trey will look even greater. We just need to see. We just need to see. Everybody needs to relax and give it a shot, but I just don't I'm telling you, man, I feel about 50-50 he's going to get a fair shot. I'm really worried about it.
I hope I feel like he'll get maybe a little bit more than 50-50. I see your pushback because I know your history with Trust and Kyle. I feel like this is it. I mean, they can't do this to themselves and not give him a fair chance. You have to absolutely see what you have in the guy. You went and drafted. You traded so much to get him. It'd be stupid not to give him a fair shot. And I think they will. I think I'm about 80% sure they'll give him a fair shot. There is some doubt in my mind that they won't, but I honestly feel they're going to give him that fair shot. And I think if they do, he'll prove a lot of people wrong. But again, he has to keep working. He's not perfect. He's still got a lot to come, to recover from. Obviously, he's still coming off an injury. That's what a lot of people don't realize. He's coming off a massive injury, right? And I know Brock Purdy is, but so is Trey. And he's out there, man, putting in the work. We've seen it. He's showing everybody. And, it's funny because people always say, his workout videos. Why are we posting the same stuff? Trey's showing people, like, listen, man, I'm clapping back to everybody that tells me, like, he sees all the hate, all the media. This is his response. Like, I'm putting the work. I'm showing you. I will show you every week, every day, as much as I have to. And then when the game comes, I'm going to continue to show you. So that's just Trey Lance responding to all the media silently. He's out there showing people, like, I'm out. Real quick, I got a couple other questions for you. So what was your whole take? Because I didn't ask you this. What is your whole take of Trey, training with Patrick Mahomes, man? Like, what's your whole take on that? I honestly think it's amazing that he's, I don't know who reached out to who. Hopefully it's Brock or sorry, Trey maybe called up Pat and said, hey, man, let's help me out. I don't know. What's your overall take on the situation?
Well, man? I mean, it'd be even more impressive if Mahomes reached out to him and like said, look, I see something in you, I want to help you. But I mean, I don't think Mahomes will waste his time with a player he didn't believe had the potential. So that right there tells you a whole lot. That's nice. That's a really good thing. Not to mention, as much as some people like to rip on the loosely based comparison between the two, and anybody that doesn't hear what someone's saying when they say that is just a hater. It's not like anybody's saying this guy's the next Patrick Mahomes, but he has a little Mahomes to his game, and in that he's got the talented arm, the ability to throw on the run. Pat Mahomes didn't read a defense his entire first year. Like, he did not know how to read a defense his entire first year. People don't understand that about Mahomes. Like, Trey's got a lot of opportunity to improve. And so, like, even if he goes out there and doesn't read defenses quite where he, should be reading them, this would be his first, start, even though he started week 1. If he stays healthy, this will be his first real legit season. And so he's going to have some ups and downs. But then again, how much of Brock Purdy's success was that he played on one of the best offenses in the National Football League with Christian McCaffrey. So it's like you take Brock Purdy and transplant him into a different scenario last year somewhere else. I mean, Atlanta, let's say Atlanta. They got Kyle Pitts. They got London. That's a good place. Would he have been even remotely close? We don't know. Would Trey have, if you took Trey out and put him in Atlanta, would he have been better than Purdy in Atlanta? Like, there's so many different ways you could argue this and try and guess who's better, or if all the things are equal, if everybody's playing on the same playing field. I don't know. I think Mahomes wouldn't mess around at all with Trey if he didn't feel like he had the ability to become a great player. And honestly, whenever I see Trey throwing, whenever I see Trey working out, I don't get any negative vibes whatsoever. Like, and even from that, remember that one video where he was like scrambling to the left in practice and he threw that missile and everyone was like all over him. It's so weird that people forget about all the good stuff that was floating around before Trey ever even had a chance his rookie year. People were like, this guy's going to win the job as a rookie because he was out there slinging it. And there was a lot of people saying that they haven't seen a guy with this much talent and as a rookie quarterback. And then all that just went away. And then now everybody forgets no one said any of that. People start ripping on his mechanics. Why didn't we hear anything negative about his mechanics during his pro day? All we heard was, look how great this throw was.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it's all of a sudden like this, the tide shifted, whatever. I don't know what happened, but you're right, because I remember when those videos came out. It was Javi from Fourth and Goal podcast. I remember he posted it, and everybody's posting it. And it was like, holy crap. Because it was like impressive. It was like, oh my God, the practice videos. And then people, a couple months ago, it's just practice videos. What are you talking about? But then during his pro day, I remember he was launching those dimes, and people were like, oh my God, Trey. And now people are, if you post it now, people are like, oh, well, it's just nonsense pro day. But you're right. It's like some weird shift happened. I just don't understand it, Smitty. I don't get it, because remember when they drafted him and we were going through this whole situation, and it was like anybody but Mac Jones. And I know it was like a Justin Fields, Trey Lance. And when Trey Lance came, everybody's excited. It was like, oh my God, this could be the guy. And then now, flash forward 3 years later, it's like people are writing him off. And I know he hears the noise. And the other thing is, no matter what he does, he gets like just constant. People are ripping on his hair. You saw stuff like crazy, man.
So another thing too to mention is, first of all, I love Fields right now. You adjust and adapt in this business, whether it's from the fantasy football angle, which is not just what I do. The NFL, breaking news whole thing is like the major part of my show. Like from a breaking news perspective, you got to adjust and adapt. Sometimes players come into the NFL and they're not even who they're gonna be yet. Like look at Tom Brady. No one knew what he was going to become. So like Fields, I admit I didn't think Fields coming out was going to potentially translate into the player that I believe he is now. I love Fields. Fields is going to become an amazing player. Also, a situation can't be separated from player unless a trade happens. So, like, would Fields be the same player if he was a Niner? Would he be a different player? Would he be a better player? Would he be a worse player? We will never know those things, and you can't really pick things apart like that, or you're just going to drive yourself crazy with all these, things you can't control. But Fields, let's put it into perspective here. There's a lot of hate on Trey. There's probably an equal amount of hate still on Justin Fields, and he's proven himself. And Fields got DJ Moore. The Chicago Bears have had one of the best off seasons this offseason so far. They've completely turned this thing around, and they're going to be a really tough team. They're a conference contender. No matter what anybody says. I have them winning their division. It's gonna be a dogfight between the Lions and the Bears. I predict it come down to some sort of like tiebreaker or maybe the final week. I think it's gonna be a crazy fight. And the thing is, we saw everybody doubt Jalen Hurts walking into the season. Like they still were doubting Jalen Hurts. Josh Allen was doubted coming into his third season and even fourth season a little bit. So like, it's not crazy that Trey's getting all this doubt when he hasn't even had a chance yet at all. When Fields is doing what Fields is doing, running for his life, carrying the team on his back, and he's still doubted. So like, I don't think it's going to get necessarily any better yet. But Fields is still learning too. Like everyone's got to give. It took Hurts a while to get to form. It took Josh Allen 2 years of being called inaccurate. He'll never be a good thrower. Being worked with by Dable and turning him into an absolute monster. And now he's one of the best slingers in the NFL, and he was considered not to be a good passer at all. So like, I don't know. I don't think the negativity is like any different than any of these other quarterbacks. But it is going to continue for sure. Even if he does well, it'll continue because look how good Fields played.
They're going to say, oh, well, look at the team. Somebody will always figure out a way to cause it into a negative connotation. But you're right. Like a lot of quarterbacks still deal with it. And Josh Allen, he's one of the better quarterbacks. He got a lot of hate until that third year. So I see there's a lot of parallels with Trey and some of these guys in the league. So, yeah, I mean, he's got to prove himself just like a lot of quarterbacks. And that's just it. NFL, you got to prove yourself. And even if you're winning, there's going to be haters, and then there's going to be people that say you're overrated if you start winning. So no matter what, he's going to have to deal with it. But it's just silly, man, because I feel like he hasn't even had a chance and people are writing him off. So I think the big theme is what me and you have said tonight is give this man a fair shake. Give him a good fair chance and see what he has. And if he falls on his face, he falls on his face. But at least you gave him the fair chance. Shift gears real quick. So obviously We talked about Trey and can he take the job from Brock Purdy? Now, there's been a lot of rumors. You've seen them out there. I'm sure you've talked about them on your show about Trey Lance being traded. Do you get any inclination that the 49ers would even trade Trey Lance? Do you think they should trade Lance? What's your overall thought on 49ers getting rid of Trey Lance at this point? Because, again, they have kind of committed to Brock, and, you don't want to cause a rift. And if they're not all in on him, a lot of people think just trade him and get some really good value and then move on. And like you said earlier, you have a 1-year window, right? 1 to 3 year window. And if they want to enhance that, they can go get a quality edge rusher in the draft or a premium tackle in the draft, and they could be a day one starter from, getting rid of Trey. So do you think that that's even a possibility right now where the 49ers stand with this quarterback situation? One of the guys, the 49ers had a private workout with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR out of UCLA. There's been some other names, but he's probably the biggest name that I've heard overall over the last couple of weeks. Where's your head at on that trade Trey Lance?
Well, I mean, two things. Anybody that says that it's not a possibility, they're just being like either naive to it or they're just overly optimistic. Because number one, when asked about whether you would trade Ayuk, you guys were like, hell no. And then when asked about could Trey be traded, and you're like, well, I mean, we'll listen to anything, but we love Trey on this team, whatever the words were. So that right there tells you the stark difference between those answers, those questions being answered. Number two, the fact that you've already said that Darnold and Trey will be splitting reps is also you're admitting that you're not 100%. If you wouldn't say that about Brock. So you are 100% admitting that you are not as sold on Trey as you are on Brock, because Brock's injured. Trey's not right now. Trey's here. Brock's not. And you're still saying that they're going to split reps. And you've never even seen Sam Darnold run this offense. So it's a real kind of dig at Trey. So 100% there's a chance. Now, what's that percentage of the chance? I don't know, but I think the cost you guys will hold on Trey will be higher than the market's willing to give. So that might in itself stop any sort of trade negotiation dead in its tracks, because Shanahan's more apt to say, give me what we paid 3 first rounders versus take them for a second or a late first rounder. So if you guys lower your expectation and you're already going to set this kid up for failure, I would plea that you let him go earn his stripes somewhere else and get a fair shake. Am I kind of hoping that he doesn't go to some bad team and he just gets a fair shot with the Niners? Yeah, I kind of am hoping that, because I feel like that could potentially be a better outcome for him, because he might not let go of the job. But do I trust Shanahan? No. At the end of the day, it's going to matter who comes with a strong offer, and it would probably be a draft day trade if I had to guess.
Yeah.
But like let's say you guys can draft an offensive lineman and you're getting a very strong indication that Brock Purdy is going to be available for in week 1, 2, or 3. And if you think Sam Darnold is even remotely close to Trey, you don't believe in Trey, and you should get rid of him and get something to help protect Brock Purdy. Because at the end of the day, why did everything fall apart last year? You were worried about plan B so much that you didn't focus on protecting plan A. If Brock Purdy's your plan A, you have an obligation to say, how can we put this team in a position to protect Brock Purdy, not protect Trey Lance?
Yeah, so, no, and any team, if you're building a team, you get a franchise quarterback, and then the next year you get weapons, and that first year when you get that quarterback, you fortify the O-line. You go and get offensive. Like, how many teams have we seen, right? The Chargers, they went and got Herbert, and then the next year they got Slater, right? A premium offensive lineman. And that's what you do. You get a premium lineman after you get a great, quarterback. And that's what these teams are doing. You insulate your quarterback by building a wall around them. And they didn't really do that with, when they got Trey Lance. And I get it. They had Trent Williams, and he's the best of the business. But on the other side, you had a guy that's a turnstile. You need to fix that. And you knew that was an issue. So I agree. Can they make sure they protect the quarterback? And whoever the quarterbacks, they have to, commit to. They have to make sure they get an offensive line. And again, it's like, if you're committing to Brock, maybe you could trade up Trey. And I do agree with you. If they do trade him, it would be a draft day trade. But then again, you have to think about fair value. And that's the question. What is the fair value of Trey Lance? What
would you take on this draft board here? Here's the first round. Would you take, let's see, the problem is the teams that have these later picks have quarterback on lock.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily need a quarterback. But in the Ravens, I would say the Ravens would be in the mix because, and they would want Trey potentially, running quarterback, mobile quarterback. They're installing a new offense under Munkin. Maybe they don't want to run as much or whatever. But anyways, they're probably getting Lamar back. So we're heading all the way up to maybe Washington, New England. And look, everyone says that like Lamar doesn't fit Bill's system or Bill's tendencies, but like he had Cam Newton. So it's not like crazy to think that
not crazy.
Tennessee. So I don't think you're getting the 11 or the 16 or the 14 form. So like, I don't know how you could even, it would have to be a future draft pick trade.
Yeah. Or a second round pick.
I mean, would Kyle take a second rounder for a guy he spent 3 first rounders on? I don't know.
At this point, what value does trade? I think a second round pick is fair because, again, what do we say? He hasn't even played. So at this point, if you don't even know, if you're unsure, a second round pick could get you a day one starter at edge or tackle. I think. So I honestly feel that, yes, I think at this point he would. I don't think they're going to have to get a first round pick because also, too, what do we say before? That the 49ers, they actually aren't that good at drafting in the first round. So maybe it's in their interest to not get a first round pick because they've screwed that up for a few times. Yes, they've hit a few times, but they've made some mistakes. Patrick, they passed on Patrick Mahomes. They got Solomon Thomas and Mike McGlinchey, Reuben Foster, Javon Kinlaw. They've messed up in the first round. So maybe they don't even want a first round pick. They're good at later talent or maybe it's just too much pressure for them in the first round. Because, Nick Bosa, you can't mess that one up. You get Nick Bosa, that's a surefire hit right there. You're like, thank you, Arizona, for passing on him. And now we got a stud. But, and Brandon Ayuk, they hit on that. So at the end of the day, I think maybe, they would take a second round pick. I don't know. Yeah. It's tough.
I mean, I think if you could get a good offensive line piece to try and protect your situation, it would be a move considering, but only if you feel that. And again, I disagree with this. I know in the chat people are going to be like, Smitty's crazy. I love Trey. This is
no, trade him.
Yeah, I don't want to trade. I don't want Trey traded, but if you're going to set him up for failure, trade him, protect, Brock Purdy and invest in Brock Purdy then.
Yeah.
But I got to run, but I want to get in here real quick and just chop it up. But it'll be an interesting draft day, bro. Maybe a conditional pick you guys give up trade that becomes, maybe you get a second rounder. And then if let's say Trey has a certain level of production or the team he goes to makes he starts a couple playoff games, whatever the contingency is, maybe it becomes a 2024 second rounder as well. Where you get a second and you get a conditional second if certain parameters are met. But it would definitely be a potential. I don't feel like I get the vibe that the Niners want to trade him right now, but I did feel that way after the press conference where they literally supporting Sam Darnold equally to trade. That just felt like.
That was weird, man. And I got the vibe as you. I feel like if they get an offer they can't refuse, they're gonna do it, and it's gonna not surprising. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't I'm not gonna say I'd be surprised if they do. It's just one of those things where they basically said like, hey, we're always looking to upgrade our team, and one of the things that Lynch said, he goes, we're not looking to trade him right now, but what's this in a couple of weeks that changes. So I don't think they will, but I do feel like they left the door open. Just in case, I agree with you, Smitty. But man, appreciate you, Smitty. Thanks for hopping in. You got anything crazy cooking up this week, or you just business as usual?
Yeah, just whenever news breaks, get on here to break it down. So I imagine things will get there'll be a couple big things happening. The Lamar situation was big. The Odell Beckham Jr. It
was big.
It seems like Lamar's heading back to Baltimore, but then again, and I think he'll get some sort of offer. But he's got to sign his franchise tag though before he can even be traded, or so like there's right now it's a weird situation. But the way it seems like Odell Beckham Jr. was pretty much assured that Lamar was going to be there, so it's weird, bro.
Yeah, I guess they were. It was kind of like a recruitment kind of thing, and I think OBJ is going to keep him around. I think that was good for them. I mean, I wouldn't have paid that much money.
He's a
Yep.
wide receiver 2 at best right now. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy that Lamar thinks that's the solution. So I question Lamar's decision making there. I question Lamar's decision making not getting an agent, and I question Lamar wanting to go back to a place where he's failed 3 years in a row. So Lamar, I would love to see him play somewhere where he's enabled and not disarmed, because he's disarmed in Baltimore. They continue
So
not to support him. They don't bring in wide receivers. They, in fact, trade them away, trading Hollywood Brown away when he was a top 10 wide receiver. Just makes no sense at all. And here he wants to go back to this situation, and his solution in his mind, this oblivious thought that Odell Beckham Jr. is a wide receiver 1. Like, this is going to be another failure year. I was really rooting for Lamar to go somewhere to prove himself, even if it was Indianapolis, to play with Pittman and JT and just a new fresh start. But I'm out on Lamar. If he goes back to Baltimore, I'm out.
yeah, no. One thing I'll say is maybe that's why teams aren't keen on Lamar is maybe he's not a good decision maker. Maybe he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. I don't know. That's just me saying, reading the situation. But I don't know. Again, I wouldn't have paid that man up to 8. And it's like that's a lot of money for a guy that's coming off a 2 ACL surgery. I love the guy. I'm a huge OBJ fan my whole life, but
Crazy, man.
crazy, man. That is
All right, man.
great. Appreciate you,
Later,
Smitty.
everybody.
Have a good night, man. Yeah. All right, good stuff tonight. Yeah, I got a couple last things. I think this will be the last thing I'll talk about tonight. Obviously, it was a good little tidbit with Smitty on there, so appreciate Smitty, the Fantasy Football Show, for hopping in. My last thing I want to ask you guys, I posted this question earlier, but let's talk about it real quick. Who's your favorite 49er player of all time? Question of the day. It's a new segment on the show. Question of the day. So we're going to ask whoever comes on the show, I guess. So tomorrow when I'm with Wayne, I'm going to ask him, who's his favorite 49er player of all time? Me? Steve Young. My favorite player of all time. Steve Young. 49er player of all time. Amazing. I know there was, when I was growing up, it was Joe Montana this, Joe Montana that. My dad, was the biggest Joe Montana fan in the world. When he got traded and he went to the Chiefs, he was a huge, Joe Montana. He was still low-key a Montana fan. I feel like, or a Chiefs fan. I feel like he became a Chiefs fan because he wanted to watch, Joe Montana. The 49ers, like, we got Steve Young. And I always loved Steve Young growing up. He was different. He was different than everybody. He was different, right? He had the mobility. He was, what do they call him? What do the kids call him these days? White Mike Vick. That guy was one of the first mobile quarterbacks. So you had Randall Cunningham and Steve Young, and those guys were doing it before anybody. When he had his big runs, I was just like, oh my God. I saw that. I was like, whoa. It was just amazing to see. I love Jerry Rice. There was so many players I loved back in those days. And even now, during the Harbaugh era, there was Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman and Justice Smith and so many players, Bosa, Kittle. Like every era has so many good players. But for me, through every single era, it's always been Steve Young, man. I had the posters, I had the Sports Illustrated, I had it all. And I absolutely just love Steve Young. When he went down and he got the concussions and he retired, I was just shattered. I was shattered. Man. So let's take a look at some of your guys' comments. Jesus says Frank Gore. Oh, I love Frank Gore, one of my all-time favorite players. He was the first player on social media to ever follow me and interact with me. Frank Gore was, oh my God, I love Frank. He was there through some dark days of 49er football. So shout out to Big Frank. Julius says Bosa or Kittle. The new era, man, those are two of the best players. They're amazing. They're funny on the field. Mic'd up segments are great, and they're just great players. They're leaders. Kittle, man, absolute legend, man. He's a great captain. And Nick Bosa, man, he's getting better as a captain himself, a leader, and it's just a flat out star. I'm so happy that we drafted him a few years back. Ethan says Bosa. Supreme says Fred Warner. I love Fred Warner, man. Like those are all good answers. I love them all, man. Fred Warner's a freaking monster. I still like that Superman spear, the diving tackle. That lives rent free in my head still. I still think about that like every other day. I'm like, oh man, remember when Fred Warner speared the guy? Just flew out of nowhere. Yeah, so I love this team. There's so many amazing players. I mean, there's Joe Staley. He was a God, man. There's so many great players on the 49ers over the years. And we could sit here and talk about them all night, all day. But, we'd be here. I would never end the stream if we talk about all the guys that the 49ers have had over the years that we just have loved. So those are some great answers. Again, No right answer, no wrong answer. We all have our favorites, and that's what makes us big fans of this team. But appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your night. We'll be back tomorrow, R&B show, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll be live with Wayne Breezy, and we'll be talking about anything under the sun with the 49ers. Hopefully we get some news. If we don't, I'll get his thoughts on everything that happened over the last few days since the last time I talked to Wayne last Wednesday. So we'll catch up, talk to my boy, and we'll keep it locked in. Make sure you have a good rest of your night. Make sure you hit that like button. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. And again, thanks to Smitty for hopping in tonight.